Good day, everyone. Today, let's talk about the conversational analysis. So here are learning goals. That includes understand the definitions of conversations and analysis its principal findings and how it applied through examples. The second one is appreciate the importance of studying everyday conversations to better understand human communication. Conversation analysis is a method of studying social interactions, particularly through language use in conversation. It is a branch of linguistics that involves the systematics of verbal and nonverbal behavior in conversation to understand how people interact with each other. And also is a discourse analysis examines structures and organizations of spoken and written communication. So conversation analysis, it means social interactions and communications analysis which focus on language use to the casual. So examine how people deal with focus interrupts, repair, taking turn, and other spoken interaction situations. So here are the example of conversational analysis. Speaker A asks, "Did you go to the meeting yesterday?" And Speaker B respond, "Yeah, I was there. It was a kind of boring." So, as we can see, there's conversations between the Speaker A and Speaker B to respond and answer the questions. Second example, the sentence, "I went to the conference last week." There is a hesitation between the word and self-corrections, the word the or the conference. So are important for conversational analysis to understand how speaker deal with meaning and for the clarity of the sentence or word to deliver. Focus of conversation analysis. Talk rather than language is a primarily focus of conversation and interactions is concerned with how people can talk as a social activity that includes how participate, organize those interactions, includes turn-taking, pauses, refers, overlaps, and conversational analysis is talk as it occurs in actual social settings is not only about the linguistic framework people use, it's about how they start a conversation. And now let's move on. Conversations analysis as work of Harvey Sachs. He designed it as a means of understanding the levels of social order that are divulged in everyday conversation. And according to him, conversations are structurally organized phenomenon which have some kind of order. So he was a sociologist and pioneer in the development of conversational analysis, a method for studying the structure and organizations of everyday thought. Sachs believed that everyday conversations are not random or chaotic. Instead, they reveal the underlying structure of social order. So further, by analyzing how people talk, to examine how they understand as navigate social norms and expectations. And Sachs wanted to explore how people display and achieve understanding in interactions. That includes how speakers identified and referred, and how meaning negotiated in a real time.
Good day, everyone. So now let's proceed to conversation interaction. So when we say conversation interaction, it is a form of communication where two or more people engage in speaking with one another, typically by taking turns. It involves a natural exchange of ideas, thoughts, or information, where each participant listens and responds accordingly. Rather than one person dominating the discussion, conversation interaction relies on a balanced flow, where participants alternate between speaking and listening. This turn-taking is essential as it allows for mutual understanding and active participation. Overall, conversation interaction is a dynamic and cooperative activity that helps people connect, share perspectives, and build relationships through spoken language. So class, don't be confused between conversational analysis and conversation interaction. They may sound the same, but they're different. So when we say conversation analysis, it is the academic study of how conversations are structured, focusing on turn-taking, pauses, and how people manage talk. So it looks closely at real-life conversations to understand the social rules behind them, while conversation interaction, on the other hand, is simply the act of people talking and engaging with each other in real time. It is the natural flow of everyday communication and not the study of it. So in short, a conversation analysis studies how conversations work, while conversation interaction is just having the conversation. Now, let's proceed to general features of conversational interaction. So, conversational interaction generally has some common features that help keep the conversation smooth and understandable. One key feature is that typically only one person speaks at a time. This helps avoid confusion and ensures that everyone can clearly hear and understand what is being said. Another common feature is that silence is usually avoided. So long pauses can feel uncomfortable in conversation. So people often try to respond quickly to keep the flow going. So if two people start speaking at the same time, it's normal for one of them to stop and let the other person continue. So this shows that people cooperate naturally during conversation, following unspoken rules to make the interaction work well. Now, let's proceed on the principal findings in conversational analysis. So we have 5 in here. The first one is a turn-taking. So when we say turn-taking, it is the process by which people manage speaking turns during a conversation, ensuring that only one person speaks at a time while the other one listens. So it helps conversations flow smoothly and allows everyone to participate without interruption. So speakers use both the verbal and non-verbal cues to signal when they want to speak or are ready to give up their turn. So these cues can include eye contact, facial expressions, gestures, pauses, or phrases like, "What do you think?" So researchers study turn-taking to understand how people naturally exchange turns and maintain interaction. So nonverbal signals such as nodding or raising eyebrows also play a key role in coordinating these transitions, making conversations feel more natural and respectful. So we have an example here. So in the example, speaker A says, "Are you coming to meeting later?" And speaker B responds, "Yeah, I'll be there at 3." So we can see a clear demonstration of turn-taking in conversation, which speaker A begins by asking a question, which naturally signals the end of their turn and invites a response. This after the question allows speaker B to recognize that it is now their turn to speak. So speaker B then takes the turn smoothly by answering the question with, "Yeah, I'll be there at 3." So this exchange shows how conversation participants use verbal cues like question and pauses to manage the flow of dialogue. So each speaker waits for the other to finish before responding, which helps maintain order and clarity in the interaction. So this simple example illustrates how turn-taking allows for effective communication without interruption. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hanifik Judango and I am the next reporter. So now, let's proceed to the Transition Relevance Place or TRP for short. So, the Transition Relevance Place refers to the completion of a turn construction unit or TCU. So, TRP is all about who talks next and how it's decided when one person finishes their turn. It happens when a turn construction unit is complete. A TCU is basically a full sentence, phrase, or even a word that can be seen as a complete thought and conversation. So this may describe the following schemes. So first, the current speaker select the next speaker. Second, the next speaker self-selects. And lastly, the current speaker may continue. So again, the current speaker selects the next speaker. Let's give an example. So, the person A asks, "Do you like pizza, Sarah?" So what's happening here? The question, "Do you like pizza, Sarah?" is a full sentence, a turn construction unit, or TCU. So the sentence ends in a question and specifically names Sarah. This is a clear cue that Sarah is expected to respond. So A has selected the next speaker, Sarah. So the result, the turn passes from A to Sarah. So next is the next speaker self-selects. Example is, again, person A says, "I saw something crazy today." So person B responds, "Oh really? What happened?" So what's happening here? So A finishes a thought or sentence, creating a TRP. A does not select anyone to speak. There is no question or name mentioned. But person B jumps in anyway, so they are interested and self-select to take the floor. B's response is not invited but is completely acceptable in casual conversation. So result, B self-selects to speak next. So last is the current speaker continues talking. Example, person A says, "I saw something crazy today. Actually, it started in the morning when..." So what's happening here? So A finishes a thought, so a TRP opens. But no one else jumps in and does not pick anyone. So A continues speaking, maybe adding more details or explaining further. So the result is the speaker keeps the floor and continues their turn. So we have here another example in the next slide. The person H and the person A conversation. So as you can see, person H says, "So Jessie told me you can play guitar." So what's happening here is this is a complete sentence of a turn construction unit. A TRP opens, someone could speak now, but H does not ask a question, so no one is selected. H chooses to continue the conversation himself. That means H is the self-select. And person A responds to person H. He says or she says, "Yeah." So what's happening? So person H finishes his next turn and now A takes the chance to reply. Even though H did not directly ask a question, he implied interest and A gives a response. So H earlier comment indirectly selected A by referring to A's ability. So H is selects A. So the next conversation is person H says, I used to play guitar in college. So what's happening? This is a new statement, a full TCU. After a response, H keeps the floor without waiting for A to say more. So there's a TRP, but no one else speaks, so H continues. So H is the self-selects again. And person A asks, do you have one here? Okay, now A asks a direct questions to H. This creates a clear TRP and selects H to respond next. So H is selected by A. Another example, their conversation is H responds none. So a TRP follows H could continue or A could respond. Because A asked a question, she selected H and A selects H. So person A responds okay. So but A chooses to take a short turn to acknowledge H answer. So this is polite and keeps the conversation smooth, and A is self-selects. Therefore, if the speaker is selected by the current speaker, then that speaker must take the turn in the next TRP. If no other self-selects to take the role, the current speaker may then continue to talk again. If the current speaker selects someone to speak next, such as by asking a direct question or mentioning their name, then that selected person is expected to take the next turn when the current speaker finishes. However, if the current speaker does not choose anyone, then the floor is open and another person may choose to speak. This is called self-selection. But if no one self-selects, the current speaker is allowed to continue talking. This system helps manage turn taking in conversation so that it's orderly and people don't speak over each other. Next, let's proceed to adjacency pairs. It is a sequence of two related utterances by two different speakers, in which the second utterance is response to the first. So the adjacency pairs are a basic structure in conversation made up of two related utterances by two different speakers. So the first speaker says something and the second speaker responds in a way that is expected and appropriate. So these pairs usually follow a predictable pattern such as a question and answer, greeting and return greeting, or offer and acceptance refusal. They help organize conversation and show how people take turns speaking in a cooperative and orderly way. For example, A says hi and B responds hello, or A, do you want coffee? No thanks. These are classic adjacency pairs. Greeting to greeting, question to answer. They are paired actions that come one after the other in talk. So example 1, the person A says hi and the B says hello. So this is a greeting to greeting adjacency pair. The first speaker greets by saying hi, and the second speaker responds with a matching greeting hello. So the two utterances are linked because the second is a natural and expected response to the first. This simple exchange shows how people acknowledge each other and start conversations politely. So the example 2 is, do you want coffee? No thanks. This is a question answer adjacency pair. The first speaker offers a questions that invites a yes or no answer. The second speaker replies politely, refusing the offer. So the response directly relates to the question, demonstrating how adjacency pairs help structure conversations by linking actions asking and answering. Both examples show paired actions that naturally follow one another in talk, helping speakers manage their turns and keep conversations flowing smoothly. Next is the repair. Repair is the process people use in conversation to fix a problem. Whether it's a mistake in speaking, a misunderstanding, or trouble hearing something. The goal is to keep communication clear and accurate. Repairs can be done by the person who made the error, self-repair, or another person in the conversation is other initiated repair. Sometimes the other person points out the problem and the original speaker corrects it. This is called other initiated self-repair. So we have here an example. A says, I met with Tom yesterday. So person B responds, you mean Tim? And then A says, responds again, alright, yeah, Tim. So B initiates a repair of a mistake in A's speech, which is the wrong name, and A accepts and corrects it. This is another initiated self-repair. So why it matters? Repair is a normal and important part of conversation. It shows how people work together to keep communication accurate, and how misunderstandings or slips of the tongue are smoothly handled in real time. And that is the end of my part.
Good day everyone, I am Romulo Calmarino and I'll be discussing the 4 types of repair. Repair in conversation is when people fix a problem in speaking, hearing, or understanding. A wrong word, a name forgotten, or something unclear. 2 things matter: who starts the repair or initiates, and who actually fixes it, thus the repair. Below each type, I'll show a short example and quick cues to notice it. The first type of repair is self-initiated self-repair. Repair is both initiated and carried out by the speaker of the trouble source. So first type, self-initiated self-repair, the speaker notices their own mistake or trouble and fixes it themselves without the listener asking. For example, I met Samantha yesterday. The speaker hears themselves or thinks they are wrong, so they correct it immediately. Then, the next type of repair is other initiated self-repair. Repair is carried out by the speaker of the trouble source but initiated by the recipients. Sa ikaduhang type of repair, other initiated self-repair, the listener signals there was a problem and asks for repetition or clarification. and then the original speaker fixes it. So sa ikaduhang type, ang listener ang magkuan sa problema. Iyang iingon sa speaker, and ang speaker ang mag-fix. For example, I saw Jay, and mag-reply pod ang listener, who? Mo-reply balik ang speaker, Jason. No? Ang kasagaran nga i-reply sa listener kay what, who, or sorry. Nagakuan ni siya nga kailangan nimo i-repeat or i-clarify ang imuhang ingon para masabtan niya. The third type is other initiated, other repair. The recipient of the trouble source turns both initiates and carries out the repair. This is closest to what is conventionally called correction. So, sa ikatulong type sa repair, the listener both points out the trouble and provides the correct form or information themselves. So, this is often an explicit correction. Sa number 3 dere is ang listener ang point out sa mali and siya pud ang mag-fix. For example, she go to the store, and ang listener maingon, you mean when? She went to the store. So diri gina-correction niya ang speaker. Kana. And number 4, the last type of repair is self-initiated, other repair. The speaker of a trouble source may try the recipient to repair the trouble. For instance, if a name is troublesome to remember. So, sa ikaapat, self-initiated, other repair. The speaker notices they can produce the right word or fact and ask the listener to help. The listener supplies the fix. So sa number 4 is diri ang speaker dili siya maka-provide og word or fact sa iyang giingon, kaya ang listener ang mag-provide or mag-fix. For example, what's her name again? It starts with M. And reply ang listener og Maya. So, mutubag po ang speaker, all right, Maya. So, diri, murag ka nang ginaingon nimo sa listener kung wala ka man sa words. Do you remember? Or what's the word for? Or can you remind me? Ning ana. Ulit kay, the speaker can't recall or pronounce something and intentionally ask for help. Intentionally jud ang pangayugtabang sa listener. The next is direta sa before ko mag-proceed sa next is i-recap usab na ako ang upat ka klase sa repair. First is self-initiate, self-repair. So there is speaker fixes themselves. Ang speaker lang jud ang mag-fix. Then sa second is other initiate, self-repair. Listener asks, speaker fixes. So ang listener ang maka-notice sa inyong mali, and ang speaker gyapon ang mag-fix. So sa katulo is other initiate, other repair. Listener points out and corrects. Ang listener ang maka-notice ang mali, ang listener po ang mag-fix. And lastly, self-initiate, other repair. Speakers ask for help, listener fixes. So here is ang speaker ang mga yugtabang and ang listener ang mag-fix. Next is the turn design. Turn design is a sequence of two related utterance by two different speakers, in which the second utterance is a response to the first. Um, Turn design means how people take turns talking in a conversation. It's a sequence of two related utterances by two different speakers, where the second speaker's response connects to the first speaker's words. In short, turn design is about making sure conversations flow smoothly. One person talks, the other responds in a way that matches. So sa turn design is about lang siya sa gina-make sure niya nga ang conversations is flow smoothly. For example, example A, nakagiingon sa child, "Can you show me your drawing?" And ang B sa adult, "Would you mind showing me your sketch?" Same action or request, but the turn is designed differently depending on the audience, simplified for a child or more formal for an adult. Turn design, on the slide there are two requests, diba? First is, "Can you show me your drawing?" And second is, "Would you mind showing me your sketch?" Both are asking for the same thing, but the turn design is different depending on who the speaker is talking to. So, dere sa turn design sa example nga akong gihatag, duha is both asking for the same thing, pero ang turn design magdepende siya sa imuhang kaistorya. And lastly, the synthesis. The CA approach studies how oral language is used during a natural interaction. It tries to explain how people act as they do in conversation. The whole conversation is viewed as a single event. Synthesis, synthesis explains how conversation analysis looks at spoken language during real natural interactions. Instead of focusing on grammar rules, CA studies how people actually talk and respond in everyday conversation. So, synthesis, instead of mag-focus sa grammar or rules, mas gina-prioritize diri ang casual nga pagstorya sa everyday lang nga conversation, like normal conversation. It tries to explain why people act and speak the way they do in dialogue. For example, how they take turns, repair mistakes, or design their responses depending on who they are talking to. In CA, a conversation is not just seen as random words, but as a single event where every part is connected and meaningful. So sa CA, ang conversation dili lang siya seen as random nga words, but single event siya where ang every parte is connected and meaningful. For example, imagine two friends are talking. So, ang friend 1 may ingon, "Oh, are you coming later?" And respond ang kaduha, "Oh, yeah, around 5. So, CA doesn't just look at the words. It studies how the question sets up the answer, how quickly the reply is, and how the whole exchange makes sense as one smooth event. So, ang sa akong example, diri is ang CA, dili lang siya nagatanaw sa words. Gina-study po ang how the question ang ma-build up nga answer. Nakadepende sa question ang ma-build up nga answer. And kung unsa kapaspas ang reply o how the whole exchange sa conversation mag-make sense as one smooth event. In short, the synthesis shows that CA helps us understand conversation as a whole natural activity. So ang synthesis ginapakita lang sa ato ang whole conversation is natural lang nga activity. It looks at how people use language in real interaction and treats the entire conversation as one complete event. Ginatanaw diri ang kanang real life interaction, and kinatreat pod nga ang entire conversation as kompleto nga event. Conversation analysis is ang study kung ginaunsa paggamit ang storya or wika sa natural nga communication nato. Ginatanaw pud ani ang kung unsa magstorya ang mga tao, kung unsa sila magstorya o motubag. When we say synthesis, pasabot raan is dili nato ginatanaw ang pahayag nga lahi-lahi, kundi buo sa isa ka event or kato akong giingon nga complete event. That's all for my part, and thank you.